Mark Rogers, TV Talking UCLA football. We bring in Mike Regalado. Always enjoy the discussion with Mike from Gojo Bruin. We're talking running backs, Mike, and it's a bit of a sore spot. So hopefully we can turn the page quickly on 2016, look ahead to 2017. And of course, the issues with the running game, more so just not the running backs that we focus on, but the offensive line, which we'll get to in a later segment. But we're talking running backs. And to see three main running backs on a college football team, the status of UCLA all averaging in the threes in terms of yards per carry, 3.9, 3.4, and 3.9 is kind of tough to take because that is pretty abysmal.
Yeah, there are two reasons for that. The offensive line, which just did not work for the Bruins, could not get any push up front. And the misuse of the running backs. Former offensive coordinator Kennedy Palomalu, the UCLA has actually 5 really good running backs. Last year they had true freshman Brandon Stevens and Jalen Starks, who was thrown into the mix too. The thing was, it's once the 3 yards per carry, that's a little deceiving. It's not that they couldn't get they couldn't get yards. It's the fact that whenever a running back would get hot, they would get pulled. We wouldn't see him again. Maybe a couple runs here and there, but they would have a good series, a good drive, and then get pulled. It was head scratching. It's like whether it was Bolu or SoSo or Nate Starks, have a couple good runs and then hey, let's put in someone else. It's like no. And despite the fact that they have 5 really good running backs and all of these guys, they could possibly start at any Pac-12 school, at least at any Division I school, mid majors. Maybe not the Alabamas of the world, but there were 5 really good running backs. It seemed like Kennedy Palomalu had to use them. The only problem with that is that only one guy can run the ball. Only one guy can have the rock and march it downfield. And it wasn't just the fact that the roster management was a little bit off, but how they were used in scheme, in plays. Like for example, in the Texas A&M game, SoSo Jamabo, he's really good in space, has long strides, has a fantastic speed. He was being used to go up the middle. He's not an up the middle guy. You got to get him into space. You got to get him to the side. And once they managed to get him on the edge, he had a few fantastic runs. Players like Bolo Olorunfunmi and Nate Starks, they're a little bit beefier and they can handle the runs up the middle. But it also seemed like they were trying to have them be edge guys. It was just a weird situation all around, and it didn't seem that Kennedy Palomalu, who was also the running backs coach, was just lost control of the running backs. This year, UCLA has all new offensive coaches. Former Bruin standout Deshaun Foster, he comes back to UCLA to take over as running backs coach, and for continuity, he actually worked under Kennedy Palomalu at UCLA a couple seasons ago. So a few of the guys know him. They know his style and what he's about. He brings some energy to the offense. And, just hopefully all together working with the offensive line and the overall product of the offense, hopefully Coach Foster can get these Bruins to get some extra yards. Hopefully that the roster management is better. Hopefully they're using the guys, their strengths to the best of their ability. Like I said, don't put SoSo, don't have him run into a crowd, have him run around the crowd, have Bolu and Nate, run right through, because that's what they're built for. So it just seems that there was just a lot of misuse of the running backs last season. And this year, hopefully Foster and offensive coordinator Jed Fish can use these guys properly.
Mike, I'm going to put a cap on 2016 just to remind everyone. I just did a little research listening to your dissertation there. 84 yards per game on the ground. That was number 128 out of 128 in the country in FBS football. 2.9 yards per carry. That was the very worst in the nation as well, number 128. Even the longest run by a UCLA runner was the longest run by any team in the country, 32 yards, but that was the longest run by a UCLA runner, and I assume it was a running back in 2016. There were actually, in averaging 2.9 yards per carry for the team, there were 44 teams that averaged over 5 yards per carry in college football. But we turn the page on 2016. We look ahead to 2017, and you're expecting an improvement. There has to be an improvement, but I mean a substantial improvement, something where the running game actually complements the passing game and Josh Rosen and actually is a benefit to the squad.
Yeah, Jedd Fisch really wants to have balance with his offense. His playbook is a little bit thicker than Kennedy Palomalu's, but he took a lot of time to explain what he is expected of his players and his offense going into 2017. With that being said, the running game looked a little bit better. There's still going to be some growing pains. They still need to shuffle around the offensive line, which is a little bit young, and depth is an issue at certain spots. But the running game looked, a little bit better. One thing that actually created a little bit of controversy on GojoBruin.com last week is me and the writers got together and we did a depth chart, and we are picking Bolo to be the #1 guy. I mean, that doesn't mean that he's going to be the only guy. Like I said, UCLA has 5 really good running backs, so there's going to be another running back by committee at that position. So it's not that Bolu's going to get like 85% of the runs. No, it's going to be pretty evenly divvied up between specifically Bolo, SoSo Jamabo, and Nate Starks. But we gave Bolo the nod just because he's been really consistent. In spring he looked really good, especially in the spring game. He had a 46-yard run up the middle, through a crowd, just nothing but daylight, and he got a touchdown towards the end of the game. He just looks like a guy that is going to just no nonsense, hard worker. He's just going to put his head down and run as far as he can. So we're not knocking him down. We still think that he has a lot of talent and he still has a lot to prove. But Bolo kind of stood out a little bit more. But there's definitely going to be a running back by committee. And as I said before, I'm sure they're going to try to find a way to get Brandon Stevens and Jalen Starks in there, especially since Stevens he's going to be really good. He's fast and can get through the gaps. Jalen Starks, he's going to be probably used in the fullback position. He's very similar to Bolo and Nate, where he's a bigger guy, and he'll just put his head and his shoulder down and just run through people and probably do some damage, as well as getting extra yards. So the future is bright for the running back position at UCLA. We just want to see how it all comes together under Jedd Fisch and Deshaun Foster's tutelage.
The UCLA running game will be better in 2017 because it can't be worse than worst in the nation, but it will get better also because there's just too much talent there for it not to improve. And with the changes made to the offensive scheme and the leadership there, we would expect better results, starting with a date against Texas A&M at the Rose Bowl. Of course, the Aggies and the Bruins got it together in Game 1 last year in an overtime affair in which UCLA ran for, I'm going to put you on the spot, Mike. What do you think the Bruins ran for in Week 1 against Texas A&M last year?
Oh, God. 110 yards, if that.
You're not too far off. That wasn't necessarily one of their worst efforts. They came out of the gate with 125 yards on 40 carries, 3.1 per carry.
Yeah, not good.
not great, but against a decent SEC defense, not horrible. And, of course, they took the Aggies to overtime. We are running down all the positions for the UCLA Bruins with Mike Regalado from Gojo Bruin. Mike, we always appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mark.